Travel and Things in association with Rugged Wear, Real People, Real Clothing, Real Solutions presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and I'm joined today by not one, but two authors from this particular book. That's Ian Glass and Auke Slotegraaf. Auke, firstly, good morning to both of you. And am I pronouncing your names correctly?
Perfectly, yeah. Thank you.
Good. So welcome to both of you. Ian, I know you're in Cape Town. Auke, you're in Somerset West, and I'm in Johannesburg. So we've got a clear view of the sky above us, or perhaps not. Certainly not in Johannesburg. It's a bit overcast and mist this morning. Tell me about the book. This is not the first edition. The book is published by Strake Nature in association with the Astronomical Association of South Africa. So let's get that out of the way. Why the book? And why now? Why at this particular time of the year?
Well, it's ready. I think Ian will agree. It's ready for Christmas, and this is a great kind of thing for people to pick up, to put in the stocking, and just to generally read, because astronomy is really cool. It's really interesting, and you ask this kind of the year, right? But if you think about it, half of your life, and I mean some of us here are ancient, half of our lives it's been nighttime, right?
True enough.
I mean that. And this book is a guide to, well, not half your life, but at least to half the year coming forward in your life to tell you what's up in the night sky.
Ian, just as a matter of interest, what is our fascination as humans with the night sky? We all want to be in the bush or somewhere where there's no ambient light so that we can look up and marvel at what's above us, whether it is Elon Musk sending people to Mars or Richard Branson trying to break records. But what is it about the night sky that's just so fascinating?
Yeah, well, I think most of us live in cities and we don't actually see the night sky properly. So when you're out in the countryside, you're suddenly aware of this huge dome above you. And especially if you're in the darker moon part of the month, you see our Milky Way and our neighboring galaxies. And most people are just completely unaware of it. I mean, people can live their whole lives in a city without ever seeing the amazing night sky.
Is the night sky in the southern hemisphere better than that in the northern? I know we don't have the northern lights, but can you sort of say, yes, we have better visuals here than they do in the north?
Absolutely, we can, because we have probably more bright stars than the northern hemisphere, for one thing, but that's just a minor. We have the Southern Cross, which is always fascinating for people, and we have the nearest external galaxies, the Magellanic Clouds, nothing like them in the northern hemisphere, and we have the center of our own galaxy overhead, which is the brightest part of our Milky Way. So those are all things that you simply don't see if you live north of the equator in Europe, for example.
Okay. Auke, I was paging through. I have a copy. I don't know. Ian said that he didn't have his copy. I don't know whether you've got yours, but I was
paging.
I feel special, I have to say.
I know where you live.
Will you come and sign it for me? But there's more to this book than meets the eye. Because if you start paging through it, specifically at the back, there are some wonderful images of astrophotography and also sort of how-tos and even careers in astronomy. Should people be coming, it's the matrics are writing currently, and maybe this is a great gift for somebody who is a little uncertain as to what their future is going to be.
Sure, you're quite right. As you say, the book covers quite a wide range of topics, and that's because astronomy appeals to people at very, very different levels. There's, as Ian said, there's the casual sky gazer who may go out on holiday somewhere, or maybe even somebody who comes to Africa for the first time from overseas, and they are overwhelmed by the night sky. So then parts of this book will be aimed at them. They're like very easy to use star maps all over the book. But then on the other side, you've got, dare I say, spectrum. You've got people who are have got a telescope and they've maybe got an observatory and they've been in the game for a while, they will need very specialist kind of predictions.
Okay.
Some of those are in the book, because, I mean, face it, if you're a specialist, you're so deep down your hole and you dug your far so deep in that you've got your very special things. But even for those people, the book caters to some extent. And what we've done this year, different to previous years, is we've made place for more photographs. Because, you know, we are a visual species. We've evolved to optimize for eyesight.
Right.
We look at the night sky. I can see you. You know, these are. There we go. That's a gorgeous example. I think that's a good demonstration of what Ian was mentioning. If you can see on my screen that picture on the left there, that shows the central part of our Milky Way at the top of the frame.
You're right.
You know, and to sort of flip this light pollution analogy a little bit. Imagine you are living very close to a large city versus somebody else is living out in the boondocks. That person out in the boondocks, all they can see is the bland, empty Karoo. But somebody who lives in the city can see the beautiful city lights. That is what astronomy is like in the southern hemisphere. The way our planet is tilted, the bottom part of the planet, if you like, which is where South Africa is and Australia and so on,
right,
that is oriented towards the Milky Way center. So we have got a ringside seat of our galaxy. But the poor folks in the northern hemisphere, they are oriented, the planet is tipped such a way that they are looking out into the dull, boring, endless wastes of cosmic space. So we do really have, you know, a ringside view. And all these different kinds of users are accommodated in the book, from the experienced person who's looking for very specific information to somebody who just wants to know, what the hell is a dusty moon and when is it?
You know, funny you should say that, because I should have marked them. There were pictures of like fighting dragons of Ara, which I don't know if you can pull up on your screen, Auke, but I mean, there they are. It's that one there. And then there is Orion's Belt, which is probably the only one I know. And there was one other that caught my attention, but these things have got really interesting names. Who gets to do that, Ian? Or have these been with us? Little Tarantula Nebula, Running Chicken Nebula. It sounds like an advert for KFC.
You know, some of these names are traditional and very long-lived, but I think the names of the various bright moons are something fairly recent. But the Orion Nebula, for example, has been known, you know, since the beginning of telescopes almost, I would think, with Galileo.
Okay.
So many of them are, and of course, the naming of the constellations, that's another interesting thing, because the northerners, the Greeks and Romans who named the northern constellations, couldn't see some of the southern ones. So they were actually named from Cape Town, as it happens, by a visitor in the 18th century, Abbe de la Caille.
Okay. And, you know, I should have started this conversation by asking both of you for your credentials, because neither of you are actually named on the cover of the book as authors, which I find interesting. Yet I'm chatting to you as authors.
Well, Auke does most of the hard work. I'm a professional astronomer. I do a lot of the checking and questions, but Auke is really the one who fills most of the book. So he's the editor.
I think, Dave, I think the names are just because it's sort of published by the society.
Okay.
You know, so it's very sort of traditional that the society shall publish the book, and it's fine. You know, the point is we want people we want to share the night sky, and having a book that is, if as you say, you've purchased the book and your eye was caught by those glorious images. By the way, all these images were taken in South Africa by South Africans.
Okay.
These aren't Hubble pictures that you can just go and download off some press release website. So the focus is very much on Southern Africa.
Right.
And this year we've expanded Southern Africa to include further out places, Botswana and Mozambique and Madagascar as well.
Okay.
So that readers that are in that part of the world where we can see essentially the same sky. Of course, the only change will be the weird time. You know, time is a strange thing. Is it daylight savings time? Isn't it? You know, what does that mean? But that's all taken care of. But anyway, as I was saying, the photos are all local.
Okay.
So that's wonderful. It's much better than having a Hubble picture, because then you realize, but local folk can do this, and with a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
Some kid might just be sparked to wonder, now, how the hell does one do that? And if you look at how rapidly technology is changing, this kind of stuff is not sci-fi for us for the general person to be able to do in the not too distant future, let alone the possibility that we could even travel there. Wouldn't that be fun?
I don't know about the three of us, but certainly people who are younger than us might well do that. I always wanted to do, I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, I'm not nearly qualified. Even then I wasn't. But I would think it's an absolutely stunning place to be, and then look down at Earth and go, oh, so that's where I live, you know.
Right.
So your involvement with astrology, Auke, was it just a general interest as a child, and then it's evolved from there?
Did you just say astrology?
That's a dirty word with us.
What's this?
You said astrology.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew it was going to happen. Now, of course, so it's astronomy, not astrology.
Yeah.
My humble apologies, gents, really.
It's all good. Look, astrology is interesting. It is, factually, it's rubbish. That's just, it's free. It's free of information. There's no data in there. Every time it's been tested, it's failed. However, astrology is very much part and parcel of our cultural roots, no matter where you are from on the planet.
Right.
If you're an ancient Egyptian, if you're from Mesoamerica, if you were indigenous people in Australia, people have, you know, we said earlier, half your life is nighttime. So people have always lived under the night sky, and they've always wanted to ask or get questions answered. Why are we here? What must we do? And if you realize that back in the day, you didn't have TV, you didn't have Netflix, you didn't have YouTube. So at nighttime, you sat outside and you did something impossible. You actually spoke to other people.
Right.
And then you looked up at the night sky. And in the night sky, all cultures have used the night sky as a canvas to show them what they should and shouldn't do. Their moral guidelines were all written in the stars, literally. You could point to that star and you can say, those two stars are the two male giraffes, and those four stars are the female giraffes, and that little star, that's the baby giraffe. Today, we would call that the Southern Cross and the pointers.
Right.
But back in the day, that was an analogy for certain people's of family life.
Okay.
So even though today astrology is very much like in your appendix, you know, you don't really need it, and when it bursts, you're in trouble. But
I seem to have opened a can of worms here, and I'm really apologetic about that. But saying that, Auke, when I was on radio years ago, if I got bored with the topics of conversation, I'd go, all right, we're going to do some astrologically speaking now. And then people would phone in and I'd say, what star sign are you? And they'd go, I'm Pisces. And then I'd read them Cancer. And they'd go, that's me exactly. How did you know? It never failed. Never failed.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Good of you.
but back to the book. Now, I have a copy. You guys don't. Is it available? I mean, should you guys be talking to Strake and saying, why aren't the books out there? It's almost Christmas.
They will be in shops very soon. The idea is exactly to get them in time for Christmas.
Right.
It's early November. What is it today? It's the 11th. So you can probably expect in the next week or so you can start finding them in the larger shops. It is, of course, available. You can buy it online on any one of the Loots and the Take-A-Lots and the thing.
Great. And it's not a huge book. I mean, you can pop it in a backpack or put it in your suitcase, and it's not going to weigh you down. But I think it's a great book to have with you if you are going somewhere and you know that you're going to have a clear view of the sky. and then you can use it as a reference work rather than saying, "Oh, if only I brought the book with me."
I think it should really be available in the game park shops, because there's just, many game parks, you don't have an awful lot to do at night unless you go on a night drive or something.
Right.
But really, it's something that can keep you busy. And most people are absolutely blown away by the night skies that they see in these remote places.
I think my next purchase is one of those laser pointers, and I'm going to work hard this year or next year, 2023, at actually getting to know something more than just the Southern Cross and Orion's Belt. And with the aid of this, I think I can achieve that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how many of these? This is the Sky Guide Southern Africa. It's produced by Straight Nature, and this is the 2023 version. How many of these have been published?
Oh gosh.
Across the history of the whole book, this edition is number 78.
Wow. Okay.
So it's been around a while. In this format, it was first published in 2004. It started in the previous century kind of thing. So it's got a long history. And as the years have gone by, the design and look and feel have changed.
Obviously, have changed. Just on that note, Auke, if somebody had last year's book, for instance, would it still be somewhat useful in 2023? I'm talking about 2021, for instance. Could that still be used in 2023? Maybe as a reference, but in conjunction with this particular book?
That's a very good question, and you've obviously noticed one of the core things about the design when we read that in 2004. The idea was to have half the book as a reference work for somebody who doesn't know anything about astronomy or astrology and just wonders what is the sun and how old is the moon, how many craters are there on the moon,
right?
What is the biggest sunspot ever seen, how much power does the sun generate compared to Kuiper? We've got Kuiper nuclear power station down here.
How does compared to Eskom, the sun it can generate more than anything, because Eskom's generating nothing.
Eskom, yes, but remember, Kuiper is running all the time. It's a really awesome little nuclear generator. So the book is filled with a whole bunch of interesting facts. Those facts are updated every year because astronomy is an infinite science. The universe is very big, so new things are discovered every couple of weeks. There's a new comet. So if you look back at the last year's book, the first the central half of the book is a contemporary reference part that you can always learn from. The other half of the book is the ephemeral stuff, the things that change from day to day.
Okay.
So for that, you'll need, as you pointed out, you'll need the current year.
Yeah,
but then you can most certainly read.
Okay, because then it becomes like one of the bird books. We all have more than one Cecil bird book on our shelves, and nobody throws them away. I think the object is to keep from number one and have them all. And I should imagine that this is a reference work. You want people to have exactly the same thing. Hang on to them. I, for one, cannot throw a book away. I feel even if it's a catalog, I have a moment before I put it in the bin. But these sort of books, as Auke was saying, can be utilized almost ad infinitum.
Yes, well, I always keep at least the previous year's edition available. I do actually throw them out when I get my new one, but
how long does it take you to put this book together, guys? Just as a matter of interest.
That's a difficult question. The time. So the short answer is 6 months.
Okay.
That's spread out over time because we learn that Strike has to go through certain internal things. They have to have meetings and plan meetings and pitch meetings and so on. So there's the nitty-gritty of what happens behind the making of the sausage kind of thing.
Right.
But the calculations are made specifically for Southern Africa.
Okay.
So, the internet is a wonderful thing. It's a fantastic resource of great stuff. There's also a lot of nonsense on the internet. So
really,
it's sometimes
I would
difficult.
never have guessed that, Auke. I thought everything on the internet was true. Darn, you mean they've been lying to me?
They might have been. But what sometimes happens is not necessarily even just lying. Sometimes it's hemispherical blindness, by which I mean that you read on the internet, on Facebook, or wherever it is, you read that tomorrow's full moon will be the strawberry moon, or the wolf moon. Now, Africa has never had wolves. Okay, very long ago we had dinosaurian kind of wolves. We had really ancient wolves. At the West Coast, there's a beautiful, you can go and see them there. They were these giant wolves. They were like from Lord of the Rings. They were huge, massive. But that was long ago. So people then would phone you up and ask you about the wolf moon. These are examples from a northern culture. Don't translate at all to us. So yes, you can find good stuff on the internet, but sometimes it's the hemisphere, and sometimes it isn't relevant to South Africa. It may be true for Chile, or it may be true for New Zealand. So that's the specific niche that the Sky Guide fills. It is calculated specifically for the southern half of the continent, and you can be reasonably sure the stuff in here will be correct. We don't do much fake news.
Catch me if you can type of thing.
Yep.
Auke, Ian, thank you so very much. The book is called Sky Guide of Southern Africa. It's published by Strake Nature. This is the 2023 edition. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the very best with the book. And I'll wait with bated breath for 2024 now to see what changes you've made, so I have a comparison.
Excellent. Thank you very much, David.
Cheers. Ian, take care. All the very best, and enjoy the what's left of the year and the night sky here in South Africa. My guests today on In Conversation With, I've been talking. Let me put my talking teeth back in. I've been talking to Ian Glass and Auke Slotegraaf, two of the contributors, should I say, to Sky Guide of Southern Africa. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for being my guests.